Good day everyone, this is Sir Fred and welcome to another video lesson tutorial. For our lesson for today, I am going to discuss measures of position for group data part 3. Let's get to know first the following objectives. At the end of the lesson, the learners are expected to: number 1, illustrate the following measures of position for group data, namely quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. And number 2, compute for quartiles, deciles, and percentiles of group data. At this moment, I'm going to discuss measures of position for group data, particularly the percentile. Here are the steps that we need to consider in solving for percentile for group data. Number 1, construct the cumulative frequency. Number 2, decide the class that contains the P sub k. When we say P sub k class, it is the class with a value of cumulative frequency greater than or equal to k times n all over 100. And number 3, compute for the percentile of group data. To compute for percentile of group data, we use the formula P sub k is equal to L P sub k plus the quantity k times n all over 100 minus CFB divided by F P sub k times I, wherein L P sub k is the lower boundary of the P sub k class, CFB is the cumulative frequency of the class before the percentile class, N is the number of cases or the total number of frequency, F P sub k is the frequency of the percentile class, I is the size of the class interval, and k is the nth percentile. Let us apply the formula in solving this example. The table shows the scores of 50 students in a chapter test. We are asked to calculate for the 57th percentile and the 80th percentile. The table shows the summary of the scores and their corresponding frequency. We are asked to complete the table by identifying the lower boundary and afterwards their corresponding cumulative frequency, starting below until you reach the uppermost class interval. So we have for the lower boundary 15.5 until you reach 45.5. For cumulative frequency, we have 2 for the lowermost class interval. Adding it to the frequency of the next upper class results to 4. Follow the same procedure until you reach 50 for the uppermost class interval. Take note, class, that the cumulative frequency of the uppermost class interval is the total number of frequency. Since we have completed the table, time for us to identify the value of the 57th percentile for group data. First is for us to identify the 57th percentile class using the formula k times n all over 100, that is equal to 57 times 50 divided by 100, resulting to 28.5. After we have identified the 57th percentile class, time for us to locate the position of this with respect to the cumulative frequency column. Make sure that the value of the cumulative frequency of the said class must be greater than or equal to the value of the 57th percentile class. And that is the value 36 to 40. Since we have identified the value or the class where 57 percentile belong, time for us to know or identify the values in our formula. First is the value of our cumulative frequency below the percentile class, and that is equal to 24. Next is the lower boundary of our percentile class, and that is equal to 35.5. Next is the frequency of our percentile class, and that is equal to 9. And last but not the least is our class interval, which is equal to 5. Substituting the values in our formula, we have 57th percentile is equal to 35.5 plus the quantity 28.5 minus 24 all over 9 times 5. Simplifying our expression leads us to the value of our 57th percentile, which is equal to 38. So therefore, the approximate value of our 57th percentile is equal to 38. The next value that we are going to identify is the value of our 80th percentile. So first, we are going to identify the 80th percentile class by means of using the same formula that we used a while ago. So we have 80 times 50 divided by 100, and that is equal to 40. So next is for us to identify the location of the 80th percentile class. So make sure that in our cumulative frequency column, the value of the cumulative frequency of the said class must be greater than or equal to 40. Have you located the value where 80th percentile belong? Okay, that is correct. 80th percentile class belongs to the class interval 41 to 50. It's because 45 is greater than 40. After we have identified the class interval where the 80th percentile class belong, we are going to identify the values in our formula. First is the cumulative frequency before the percentile class, and that is equal to 33. Next is the lower boundary of our percentile class, and that is equal to 40.5. Next is the frequency of our percentile class, and that is equal to 12. And finally, our class interval is equal to 5. Substituting the values in our formula, we have 80th percentile is equal to 40.5 plus the quantity 40 minus 33 all over 12 times 5. Simplifying our expression leads us to the approximate value of our 80th percentile, and that is equal to 43.415. So therefore, the approximate value of our 80th percentile is 43.415. To summarize the things that we have learned in this video lesson, here are the things that we need to remember in solving for measures of position for group data, and to be particular is the percentile. So first is for us to construct the cumulative frequency. Second is to decide the class that contains the P sub k by using the formula k times n all over 100. And finally, compute for the percentile of group data. To compute for percentile of group data, we use the formula P sub k is equal to L P sub k plus the quantity k times n over 100 minus C F sub b divided by F P sub k times I, where Lp sub k is the lower boundary of the P sub k class, Cf sub b is the cumulative frequency of the class before the percentile class, n is the number of cases, F P sub k is the frequency of the percentile class, I is the size of the class interval, and k is equal to the nth percentile. And by that, thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the subscription box and notification bell to stay updated. See you on our next video lesson. Goodbye!